Our second speaker is no other than Mississippi's 36th Secretary of State, Mr. Michael Watson. He is currently in his second term serving the state. Since taking the oath of office, Mr. Watson has launched numerous initiatives and expanded existing efforts, from strengthening the integrity of Mississippi elections process through legislation to reducing business regulatory burden on businesses and award-winning tackle the TAPE initiative and safeguarding the state's natural resources through the assembly of the Conservation Task Force. Secretary Watson has moved to serve a number of Mississippians, and we welcome Secretary of State Michael Watson. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Well done. All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about a bunch of stuff. First, Christine, thank you for that. Fantastic. Yeah, she can still take somebody through the wall, by the way. I don't know if y'all know that or not. She's tough as nails. We'll talk a little bit about kind of the office in general, and then I definitely want to have time for questions. I think that's really important for us as elected officials. I'll start with this, and one of the favorite things that I've had happen in the last 5.5 years as Secretary of State. I was in Brookhaven probably about 2 years ago now, and I was speaking to a group of 5th graders, and they were gifted, so I'll give them a little bit of credit. One of them in the back, he raised his hand, he said, what about taxes? And I was like, it's kind of weird, a 5th grader wants to know about taxes. I said, all right, we'll go in there, buddy, let's go. So you go to the store, you buy a pack of bubble gum, it's $1, you pay $1.07. That 7 cents on top of the dollar that's taxes. And those taxes go to pay for your roads and bridges, your teachers, your policemen, your elected officials, and kind of went through the list there. He said, wait a minute, did I pay your salary? It's like, yeah, it's good. That's good, buddy. He said, am I your boss? I was like, okay, we're getting there. He said, I said, yeah, actually you are. You pay my salary, I work for you, or for your parents. He said, can you get me some ice cream sandwiches? I said, oh. You took that a little bit too far. But I love the concept that he grasped there. When you pay those taxes, you pay my salary, that means I work for you. And the very first thing that I would tell all of y'all is don't ever forget that. I'm a public servant. You're my bosses. So when you need me, I want you to know I'm going to respond. I'm going to help you. And we're going to talk a little bit about kind of the office and some of the things that we do to where we can extend our arms to help you in whatever you're going through as far as business goes, elections, and the public land. So we'll go really quickly. Umbrella number 1, elections. Y'all know that's kind of the face of the office. A lot of folks understand Secretary of State is always involved in elections. I will tell you very importantly though, we are kind of at the top. We oversee the process, but the real work happens at the local level. So your elections commissioners and your circuit clerks are the ones that do the hard work. And then the magic on election day, it happens because people care enough to work the polls. Has anybody in here been a poll worker? See a couple here. We need more of y'all. Our poll workers, not these here, but our poll workers are getting a little bit more wise in years. So they're starting to get to the point where they just, you know what, I've done this long enough, it's time for somebody else to take that reign. So please, if you are interested in good elections, I hope that you will think about being a poll worker. We need more and more every day. So our poll workers are fantastic. We help train our clerks and our commissioners. If there's ever any kind of election contest or issues or problems, people always call us. I literally was on the phone 30 minutes ago with the city attorney from Raleigh about an issue that they were having that we had to advise them on how to handle the issue dealing with the municipal election that's just happened here. Speaking of municipal elections, we had one that was tied, I don't know if y'all saw that or not, where there was a coin flip to decide the winner. Several years ago, there was another one where they drew straws. I actually went to that one. I was in the state legislature, so you can decide how you want to do it. Flip a coin, draw straws. I don't think you can throw dice, but there's a couple options that you can use. But I went to the one a few years ago when I was in the Senate, and Delbert Hoseman, who now is the Lieutenant Governor, was the Secretary of State, and so he put the whole show on. It was like these gold straws. I mean, come on, it's too much. Give me a windy straw, we'll roll. But it was pretty cool to watch the process. So I just said it to say elections are so very important, and understand every vote counts. And great example of this year having a tied election. One more person goes to vote, and or someone who is not eligible to go votes, and their vote gets counted, they decide that election. So two sides of the coin there. Number one, it's really important that you can vote. Number two, it's really important that we have integrity in the process. That's one of the things we've really focused on. Regardless of your politics, you like them or not, we've been invited starting in January. They saw a lot of the work that was going on in Mississippi with our elections process, making sure that there was integrity across the board. We got invited to the White House. They actually put together a group of secretaries to implement some policies that they were excited about. And so I want y'all to know it's not just in Mississippi, but the whole country is starting to notice what we're doing here with our elections, how well they're ran. And again, a lot of credit goes to our local level officials. But they call us in to say, hey, we see what you're doing. Help us to teach the entire country some of the things that's happening in Mississippi. So I want y'all to know that's not in the news, but we're actually being watched across the nation and really doing a good job with elections. So that gives a lot of credit to our state. I want y'all to be aware of that. So that's kind of elections. Business services, that's where the really broad part of the office comes in. So a lot of you are small business owners. Obviously, the business you're in is a business. So if you're an LLC, a nonprofit, a corporation, a sports agent, a perpetual care cemetery worker, the list goes on, scrap metal dealer, any of those types of formations, you're going to work with us at some point in time. So we impact every business in this state at some point in time throughout your entire process there. So big piece of what we do. A couple of things in there. Number one, important for y'all is making sure you file your annual reports. When you establish your business with our office, two things that are kind of new there. Number one, when we came in, that was the deal. You filed your paperwork and it was done. You never talked to us again. And so we kind of wanted to really encourage our small business owners and help them through the process. So we started what's known as your Welcome to Business webinar. So if y'all have not done one of those, it's really helpful to kind of come in and say, where are the resources around the state? Who do I call if I've got this question? Who at the Department of Revenue, how do I have a contact there? So the different agencies that you need to deal with, we want to make sure that you're aware of what's out there and how to get those resources and how to access the help when you do need that. So that's a big one. The second piece there, as we were mentioning, your annual reports, really important to keep those up to date. If you do not and you don't file one, eventually you're going to be dissolved. So your LLC or your formation of business will be dissolved, and we don't want that to happen because then you lose a lot of your legal protections, et cetera. So very important to file your annual reports. It's every year. It's April 15th. For nonprofits, it's May 15th. So those are some important dates. Make sure that you've got your agent up to speed on that. For process, you can change that. LLCs, that's free to change, but make sure you got your correct address, street address, et cetera. Really important there because, again, we want you to have all the legal protections that you can for your business, and as long as it's in perfect shape with the Secretary of State's office, you're in good shape. So any questions about that, obviously we want you guys to call us. One of the things under that, again, with you being small business owners, we think is really important for you to know about, and it was mentioned in our Tackle the Tape initiative. We started that back in 2020 as soon as I came in office. There was a piece of legislation when I was in the state Senate that established the OLRC, the Occupational Licensing Review Commission. Basically what that is, if you're a contractor, if you're a doctor, if you're a nurse, any kind of profession where you have to have a license from the state, this board oversees all 29 of those boards and commissions. So the legislature said, look, we want to make it easier to do business in Mississippi. So by creating this, any new rule or regulation that comes before these boards and commissions has to go through the OLRC to make sure it's not overly broad, overly burdensome. It's for a public health benefit or public safety benefit, not just a dumb rule. We want to make sure we're cutting those out. So I was really happy to support that in the Senate. But when we saw that's 29 boards and commissions, that's it. There's a lot of other agencies out there. So we launched our Tackle the Tape initiative to say, look, if you're a small business owner and you've got issues with the regulation, with the statute, with federal, doesn't matter what it is, you don't know how to get around it, you need to maybe get that regulation cut, we want you to know, I want to be an advocate for you. I want to be helpful for you. And so it's easy to kind of spit that out there. Well, what does that actually look like? And I'll give you a great example. We had one, it's been a little bit now, but y'all familiar with Piggly Wiggly, great fried chicken, good grocery store. Louisville, anybody from Louisville around here? No hands? Close enough, good enough. All right, so Louisville, if you've not been there, not a whole lot of grocery stores there. And so we had a guy call and he said, look, I'm trying to open a Piggly Wiggly up in Louisville, Mississippi, which is good for the community because it's more groceries, another opportunity to buy food, more competition, lower prices, et cetera. But I've got this issue with USDA. And I said, well, wait a minute. USDA is federal. I'm at the state level. That's above my pay grade. He said, no. You said anything. I was like, you got me there. So why don't you tell me what's going on? So he gave me a long explanation, and I said, well, look, we've got a state director of the USDA here in Mississippi. Why don't you let me call him and see if we can figure this out? And so I call over there. Wouldn't you know it, are any federal employees in here? This guy was on like a 13-year vacation. I mean, hadn't been in the office in 3 months, whatever. So I get his assistant, and I send her an email, and I literally, here's everything. Why don't you send this to the director and make sure we get some help for this guy? And so I get an email back thinking, all right, here we go, we're moving forward. And in this email, it's a phone number, and that's it, nothing else, just the phone number, no name. This is the department you're going to be talking to. This is where this person is located. Nothing, a phone number. And I sat there and thought, I'm not me, but I'm the sitting Secretary of State for the state of Mississippi. And you're giving me a phone number with no other information whatsoever, and I'm trying to help one of my citizens. I got torqued up. So I hammered out an email, and I deleted that email. It was pretty hot. I did the second one. Sorry, I said Kit Kat here. Big Kit Kat fan. So I did the second one, and I erased it too. It was still too hot. Number 3, finally got, I guess, calm enough to send this third email. And so I sent an email, and God bless you. And I get a response within like 10 minutes, and I'm thinking, all right, they got the picture now, I'm mad, they're gonna give me some help. To this person's credit, I got a different phone number. That's it. So I've got 2 different phone numbers, no names, no nothing. I am furious. I'm literally on top of my desk. Lucky enough for me, I've got the 2 cell phone numbers of 2 sitting United States senators. And so I call one of them, and I say, I'm really upset with the USDA. Do you have a contact person that I can call to get some help for this Mississippi small business owner that's a citizen here and a voter? Oh, absolutely. Here's this person. So I call this person. I get a live person. They answer the phone. 2 days. 2 days later, this issue's done. This person opens up the grocery store. He's rolling. Through that whole process, I'm thinking to myself, again, I'm the sitting Secretary of State, and I can't get help. Do you think that small business owner is going to get a return phone call from the USDA? Absolutely not. That's the beauty of Tackle the Tape. When you can't get a response, when you can't get an answer, I want you to know you've got an advocate that's going to go to the mat, that's going to get mad when they don't call me back, that's going to make sure that you get an answer. Again, I work for you, and I think that's the whole beauty of Tackle the Tape. The second piece of that is we got pretty strategic. The 29 to 29, and I mentioned y'all, all those boards and commissions now, we're going through every single regulation that they have in their whole entire notebook. And if it's a bad regulation, we take it to the board and the commission, and we say, hey, look, you need to get rid of this. This is not good for small businesses. Let's get it out of here. And it has been really, really good. And I'll give you, we'll eat that later. I'll give you an example. Board of Accountancy. We've done 9 boards now. We're going through our 10, 11, 12 right now. Board of Accountancy. They had a regulation in there that said basically if you want to be an accountant in Mississippi, you have to establish residency in this state before you can even take the CPA exam. Well, imagine if you're a student that is from another state, you've passed, you got your accounting grad, you're ready to go. And let's say Horn, CPA or whomever offers you a job in Mississippi. Not only can you not sit for that exam to get it passed to see if you can take your job, but you also have to establish residency before you can even sit for the exam. That's just dumb. Thanks, Joey, I'll get that water later. That's just dumb. So it's little regulations like that you may not be a big deal to you, but think about that. That's causing other people not to come to Mississippi to work because of a silly little regulation. And is that a good regulation for public safety? No. Is it a good regulation for public health benefit? No. It's just dumb. It's anti-competitive. And so when we take those regulations out, it makes it easier to grow your businesses in Mississippi. So that's the Tackle the Tape spill. Talk more about that, but that's a big deal for us. Lastly, public lands. We're over 16 section lands. I know that helps fund education. We are over Tidelands along the coast that y'all are here now. Actually right behind us, wherever, I don't know what this direction I'm in. And then tax forfeited properties. So when you don't pay your taxes, eventually people lose their property and it goes up to the state as a tax forfeited parcel, and then it's our job to get it back on the tax roll. So we do a lot of work with that around the state with our properties. We talk a lot about conservation. Because of that, the lands that we are in control of and overcharged to be the trustee for the state. So just kind of an example of how we try to work. when we kicked this conservation task force off to oversee our public lands, I'd gone to see a lady from Mississippi State Extension Service, and she was talking about, when we can have conservation goals, if it's just one individual doing it, there's really not much you can do. But when we're working together towards a common purpose, and it's all of us, then you can make some changes. And so I thought that's really good. So I started looking at DEQ, DMR, IHL, the different agencies around the state, and they all had different plans for conservation, but none of them really aligned for the top down, for the whole state. So we launched our conservation task force. Well, when we did this, I got in probably 25 to 30 of the top conservation minds across the country. So I want y'all to come to Mississippi. I want you to kind of look at what we're doing. I got all of our agencies in the state, our NGOs, Ducks Unlimited, you name it, all come to the same meeting. Well, one of the guys was really smart, just a super conservation mind guy, and he was leaving the conference. And I said, man, what'd you learn? How good was that? I learned a lot. He said, I didn't really learn anything. I said, thanks for coming. Glad you're here. Point being, he said, I didn't learn much because I already know this stuff, but this is the first time I've ever seen this many people from state agencies, from nonprofits, from you name it across the state, in the same room, pulling in the same direction for the good of the state. And so that's kind of how we want to operate our office. And part of that is y'all. The folks that are small business owners, the folks that are doing things in our state that understand what the communities need. When you start holding us accountable as elected officials, when you start calling me and saying, hey, have you thought about this? If this is a piece of legislation that impacts your business, your industry, have you thought about it from this angle? As we work together as a team, our whole state gets better. So a really important component to make sure that you are aware of with that. I forgot about one thing about elections, and again, I think this is an important part of who we are at the office. When I got elected, y'all know we had COVID kind of in our face. And one of the things we did was we launched an 82 county tour where I went to all of our circuit folks and all of our elections commissioners to sit down and visit with them. I'm an attorney by trade, so I know I want the experts in the room when I've got questions about an election. So who is that? Well, that's the folks that run them every day. So we were working through the state, and COVID hits, and we've got some issues that are coming. How do we make sure that the precincts are safe, that people feel comfortable going out and vote? How do we, if we can avoid that, what if we do curbside voting? What if we do some of these different things? And so we got a lot of ideas and sent them out. Well, the curbside idea really popped in my head kind of late. And so when I was meeting with these clerks, I told all of them, look, if there's something that I do that's not really a good idea, I want you to be comfortable enough to come tell me, hey, that's not a good idea. Let's don't do that. And so I got through several of them. Well, I launched this initiative dealing with curbside voting, because if you did that at the curbside, people don't go into the courthouse, they don't go to the courthouse, they don't get exposed to COVID. It's just a safer process. Well, I had about 13 or 14 of the clerks call and say, hey, we need to come talk to you. And I was like, well, sure, what's going on? So, we just want to come talk to you about elections. So that's great. So they come in about 35 or 45 minutes worth of telling me I was an idiot. Without telling me I was an idiot, I got the point. That was a terrible idea. I should have run that through you before. But what I loved was they were comfortable enough to come in and say, hey, this is a bad idea. And I think, again, that's really important for all of us to understand. I don't know everything. So if there's issues dealing with your profession, I want to learn. That's my job as an elected official, is to learn. So it was funny, we launched that, and there was a clerk in the back of the room. She was a Democrat clerk, and she was sitting next to a Republican clerk, and she said, he is never coming to my county. And she didn't know that this Republican clerk was a friend of mine. So afterwards, the Republican clerk comes up, and she says, hey, I just want you to know what they're saying out there. They don't think you're coming to their county because you're a very conservative Republican. And I said, okay. Well, guess where the first county I went to? That lady's. And I wanted to make sure that she understood, number one, if I tell you I'm going to do something, I'm going to keep my word. Number two, yeah, I got elected as a Republican, but I didn't get elected just to serve Republicans. I didn't get elected just to serve Democrats nor independents. I got elected to serve Mississippians. And so when they saw that, gosh, this actually means it. I think it's been really good for our entire office, and we've been able to do a lot of great things because of the partnerships we've built. So I want to make sure that we extend that to y'all as well. When you have issues that we can be helpful with, it's my job to listen. It's my job to help you. If it's something that's a Secretary of State issue, that's why I wanted to give y'all that overview. Great. If it's something that's not a Secretary of State issue, call me anyway. Again, when I was in the state senate, you get calls back pretty regularly. When you're a statewide elected official, they call you back pretty quick. So if people aren't calling you back, if you've got a problem with insurance, with revenue, with whomever, I want y'all to know y'all got an advocate to call me, and I'll make sure that you get the answers that you need. And you may not like the answers, but you're gonna get an answer because that's what we should be doing as public servants. So that was really quick. It's 11:10. Let's, questions? What kind of questions can we talk about? Oh, last thing I forgot. Really important. We launched a program, Jody, I'm gonna step on your toes a little bit. We launched a program about 2 or 3 years ago. When I was in the state senate, human trafficking is awful. I want to talk to y'all a little bit about that really quickly. Because of the line that you're in, you're going to be great eyes and ears on this issue. Had a couple ladies come to me that actually heard Jody speak, I believe it was, and sat down and said, we want to talk to you about human trafficking. I said, well, look, you know, that's in New York, that's in Vegas, that's in LA, that's not in Mississippi. And they were like, that's why we want to come talk to you. So well, come on. I got a great education. And one of the worst ones they were telling me about, it was a grandfather down around Brookhaven who was trafficking his granddaughter for drug money. And as a dad of 2 daughters at the time, 3 daughters now, it just ripped my heart out. And so we started working on legislation, again, a lot because of Jody and his relationship with the speaker at the time, Philip Gunn. Philip led the initiative on the House side. I was working on the Senate side, got a lot of good legislation passed. Well, when I left the legislature and came to the Secretary of State's office, I thought, look, this issue is too important to me to leave behind. What in the world can I do as Secretary of State to stay in this sphere? And so we started looking at some other states. We looked at Iowa, Texas, and a few others. Iowa had IBAT, Iowa Businesses Against Trafficking. Texas had TBAT. And so we looked at the best parts of those pieces, of legislation and/or regulation in those states, and how do we bring that to Mississippi? So we built MBAT. We launched MBAT again about 3 years ago, and we had the massage industry, hotels, convenience stores, and the Mississippi Braves when they were still here. Those were our 4 partners. And we got a lot of questions about the Mississippi Braves. Well, that doesn't make sense. Why are they there? And the idea with them was, look, it happens everywhere. It can be a Braves game. It can be an airport. I think last numbers I heard, roughly 60% of folks that are trafficked go through an airport. I never would have guessed that. So it's everywhere. And I think one of the things that's important for us, and why we launched MBAT, was for basically 3 purposes. Number one, if you're a business, you register with us, you get access to training. What does that training do? It teaches you, what is human trafficking? What does it even look like? Is it labor trafficking? Is it sex trafficking? The different types of trafficking. So it educates you on that. Number two, what are the signs? How do I recognize if it's going on? And so it teaches you how to recognize the signs. And number 3, very importantly, if I see it, who do I even call? How do I report this? So we teach you kind of the 3 pieces of the puzzle there. What is it? What does it look like? Who do I call to report it? And there's a case going on right now, and Jody, you're probably aware of it. In the Jasper or one of those counties on that little area over there, where a dad was trafficking his daughter, and just a citizen saw something going on that she had recognized from some training that she had seen or kind of seen on TV, wherever she saw it. Maybe it was our training, I'm not sure. Just a citizen calls the police department and says, hey, this looks weird. Something's going on here. Could you maybe check in? And sure enough, they go, and it was trafficking. And I say that to say this is just an innocent citizen bystander just like us. She saw it, and because she saw it and had the courage enough to call and act on it, she rescued a child from hell. When you could do that, that's the Lord's work. You see this intersection of policy and how do we get the policy right in theory and in the practice. But when you boil that down and you take it to real life, when you're actually saving someone's life from that hell, what better can we do? As ma'am? So there's numbers, several options. You can call me if you want.
I got your number on speed dial.
That's right, got me on speed dial. So there's a human trafficking coordinator at the state level, AG's office, Jody. You can call the National Trafficking Hotline. There's several pieces there, and I would encourage you to take a look at our training to make sure that you get the right, accurate ones. But MBI is a quick one as well. Jody will probably talk about this later, so he's going to give you the real deal. I just want to make sure I touched on it because it's such an important topic for us. So when we launched this, we got north of 200 businesses now that are members. I thought, look, this isn't just a Mississippi issue. How do I make sure other states are paying attention to this as well? So we wrote a letter to all of the SEC football, I'm a big football guy, all the SEC states, to their secretaries and said, hey, look, this is what we're doing in Mississippi. Y'all should do it in your states too. Well, just Monday, Georgia launched GBAT. Several months ago, Tennessee launched their program. Alabama launched their program. Kentucky's working on their program. Arkansas is working on one now. Again, all because Mississippi thought, hey, we're not just this little state here. We're at the tip of the spear. Let's get other states to do it too. So it's really incredible. I encourage y'all to take a look at MBAT. If you're not members already, get that training for your employees, for your friends, for your neighbors, whomever it is. This is important. When all of us start working together on that, we can make a really big difference. So I did want to touch on that before I got that. So now I am actually done. Questions? What you want to talk about? Anything that I can be helpful with? Yeah.
I don't know if you could help with this or not, but you use a scenario about an accountant might want to come to the state of Mississippi and things that wouldn't allow him or her to pretty much sit for an exam or anything like this. My question is about on the judicial side, you know, we have statutes for bail bonds, and then the judicial side, you know, of course, have statutes also to make sure that those pretty much coordinate together some kind of way, because it sounds like, you know, judges kind of write their own rules to a certain degree, and we're expected to follow those, and it doesn't work very well. And I'll just give you one, for instance, just say in Lamar County. I mean, there's been an ultimatum that if you're not there for court with your client, then, you know, you're going to get kicked off the list pretty much. So, I mean, you can't be in 5, 6 places at one time, you know, especially, you know, I have a couple of agents, and basically if they can't be there, or I can't be there, then, you know, I can no longer write in that county. But I mean, our statutes don't say anything like that. You know, the judges come up with things like this. Is that anything you can help with that on that, or?
To some extent, I know when I was practicing, you have uniform rules at the local level as well, and so sometimes those local level judges get together and they say, here are the rules of our coming to our court, and sometimes that's one of them that's covered. The 100% answer to that is get them beat and get somebody who's going to write different rules. But again, that comes back to elections. Outside of that, it's hard. I mean, now that said, I can sit down with anybody and say, hey, look, let's maybe massage some of this for the bail bonds, association, et cetera. They're having a hard time with this. Is there some way we can get some leniency? I'm happy to go have that conversation. But ultimately, I can't force the judiciary to do anything in that regard. I can have those conversations, and I'm happy to. That's something that would be helpful.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
They can't be forced to follow the statutes.
Well, so again, back to the uniform rule piece at the local level, they're granted certain discretions, making rules of how to come into their uniform rules coming into practicing their courts, and giving that discretion from either constitutional or legislative. No, ma'am. It's this whole idea of when a statute is written for the legislature. A lot of times, say that they'll make the Secretary of State. I've got a perfect example right now. There's a new program for tax forfeited properties, blight properties, where they're going to do a tax credit. Well, so they write the legislation. They say, hey, the Secretary of State and the Department of Revenue is going to oversee this tax credit program. They didn't give me rules. I could go make the rules up. So sometimes when you make legislation like that, you give the discretion and authority to the local judges. Hey, you go make your rules, uniform rules in court for your operations. So I think that's probably what that deals with. It's a local uniform rule, and they would have the discretion to make that. So
something like that, yes, that could possibly be that. But if there's a statute that, states that basically the bond goes until, it is adjudicated, until the bond is, that person is found guilty, not guilty. Once they're put on a payment plan, the bond is gone. Yet we have municipal judge in Starkville that is saying that we're not off the bond until he says we're off the bond. We're not off the bond. We are on the bond until they pay this $15,000 in fines that he wants them to pay over the next
Yeah, no.
3 years.
If it's in direct contradiction to the statute, we got a problem.
We had severe problems.
We had a hand back there. I don't know if you'll speak to
I
that.
can address both their issues, what they were asking.
Sure.
In the criminal code of procedure of 8.1, it specifically says they have, under the very last section, you have the Department of Insurance with recall under it, then you have clerks and the judges. They cannot commingle. The only thing we do, we write the policy to appear, term to term, date to date. They cannot demand any of us to be in court, show up with their clients, or anything else. It's specifically written. So if they've got a problem, submit it to the county attorney and put that statute in there. And if they want to violate it, then you report it to, you know, you can do the bar, judicial performance, whatever.
Is that thing running?
What about our sheriffs?
Sheriffs.
Our sheriffs sometimes, you know, try to make rules and regulations about who we can or how many bonds we can write in a particular county in a day, or whether or not we can bond family or friends and different things of that nature. Is there anything we can do to?
Again, something that's spoken specifically to in statute. Sometimes you'll have elected officials maybe go a little further out of their bounds. I think that would come to, number one, I would make sure that the legislature is aware of those contradictions. And if there needs to be some tightening of statutes to make sure that's not happening, that's probably your best bet. And then number two, again, I would hate to suggest this, that thing's rolling back there. Sometimes you gotta take folks to court to force the hand.
They can affect our business.
And that's the hard part, and I get that. Am I in trouble? Yeah.
In one county, there's a GPS monitoring, I believe it's an LLC, it's a private business owner who is operating under a monopolized racketeering enterprise, where they're the only GPS monitoring company that can receive it for just a piece of paper written on by the chief of police of the city. And they will not allow anyone else to do GPS monitoring there. So that LLC, if they're participating in racketeering in an illegal enterprise, which has created a monopoly in the county, can your department do something about that?
That would be the Attorney General's office, more than us. I can get you a contact for that if you want to. Some questions and answers on it. Happy to do that.
Well, Secretary of State, we thank you for visiting with us today. Thank you for Mississippi. All right?